And
Um, but it's keeping with the podcast theme now because we enjoy our freedom of speech. Like, what do you think about what's going on? Like with Kimmel got fired, and
yeah, it's fucked up, man. It really, really bothers me.
it bothers me too. And not because I'm a fan of Kimmel per se, but I am a fan of free speech, and I don't think that we should. I guess there's many different ways to look at it. You can say, well, it was his employer got rid of him, so his freedom of speech was never um, compromised or whatever. But in a sense, it was.
Yeah, that's bullshit. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want somebody telling me I can't post my podcast on YouTube because, and it already is that way.
Oh,
I,
yeah.
I get flagged for shit all the time.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the nature of the broadcast, right? So YouTube has their policies and procedures, their terms of service, and if there's content in there that violates the terms of service, and they flag you or they take it down, that's a prerogative. It's our privilege to have it on the show. So there is that angle. You know, I'm not a fan of like Kimmel's comedy either. I just think there are other guys on TV that I thought were funnier. I thought his comment, because it was related to, they said he was making fun of Charlie Kirk's death, which he wasn't.
No.
That like the comment was directed at President Trump, not really being. He talked about how upset and hurt he was about Charlie Kirk's death, and then within minutes, he's like celebrating at a baseball game, dancing around, and he's talking about the new ballroom being built, and it was
Yeah.
if your best friend just got shot, we wouldn't be there, right? So that was Kimmel's joke, and
Yeah.
yeah, so he was pushed out for it, and
Well, I do. Let me ask you this: do
yeah.
you think they were just using that as an excuse to maybe get rid of Kimmel? Because let's be honest, late night ratings are dismal anymore. More people are watching clips from the shows on
Mhm.
YouTube and TikTok and other platforms, but nobody's really tuning in at 10:30 at night or whatever time it comes on, to watch their shows.
So
You
where
know,
do
they,
those clips go? When the show's not on anymore, they don't have clips to be able to send reels out there.
Well, that's what I was telling my roommate. I was like, Jimmy might be almost better off now. He can do his own thing, start his own podcast, and have complete freedom of speech, put out the same clips, and get
Mhm.
the same, probably even double the content.
Yeah, well, you wonder, right? So if the big TV networks are controlled that way, right? Like Disney, had controlled Disney and said, "Nope, he's out." And when asked about it, the president says, "Well, it's because his ratings were down, not because of anything, related to freedom of speech." That's bullshit too, right? If the TV networks are controlled that way and they really are limited, then you look at all the other avenues, right? If there's news that's being controlled and you're only allowed to say certain parts of the news but not all real news, then it's completely biased and it violates all the other sort of directives of what you're supposed to get with news. And so, like, I'm out of the country a lot, right? So for me, when I'm outside like the United States and I hear how news is reported through the BBC or Al Jazeera or whatever other network, it's interesting to me to hear how biased American news is, and whatever station, if you're listening to MSNBC or CNN or Fox News or any of those things, it's all bullshit, man. It's
Yeah.
really, and that bothers me because there isn't freedom of speech there on any of those places. And if you're taking your daily opinions and you're basing your whole philosophy on what you heard in the news, then you're really selling yourself short, right? I think. I mean, I turned off the news probably about the time the pandemic was happening because nothing good was there, right? I mean, there's nothing positive, and I don't want that in my life, man. I can find out what I need to find out about, changes in the world and still find a way to find positivity in my life, you know?
I think I shut the news off probably 20 years ago.
Yeah.
After 9/11, I got real big into news,
Yeah.
wanted to know what's
Sure.
going on all the time. And then it just drains you because, they used to have that phrase, if it bleeds, it leads,
Right. Yeah.
and it's all about feelings and creating these feelings inside of you, and it's just I don't want that.
Yeah, well, we're the good feelings too, right? I mean,
Right.
I was talking about, like, my taking you had mentioned you wanna be close to your mom, and my dad, passed away just about a year ago, but the 5 years between COVID and last year, man, he was obsessed with the news, right? He was watching the news all the time, and he was always infuriated, right? He was so
Yeah.
upset and angry, and I'm like, "Man, dad, you're sick," and all you're doing is putting sick stuff in your head. It's not doing you any good,
Yeah,
and
it can't be good for your body.
turn off the freaking news, man, and let's just, like, let's find something else, and, you know, I mean, we can get into it more, but the freedom of speech thing, it starts there and it goes deeper, and I think if as a nation, America is really being censored that way, uh, we lose a lot of the values that the country was founded on in the first place, right? So
Well, you know what really scared me about it was that it was apparently the guy from the FCC that stepped in and said, you need to do something about this. Now that to me is the scariest part
sure.
because
Yeah.
who the heck do you think you are to tell us what we can or cannot say on the air?
Yeah.
I get maybe, you shouldn't curse on the air, things like that. I mean, we
Mhm.
have freedom of speech, but it's not absolute, you
Right.
know.
Yeah.
But I don't think they should be able to step in and say, "Oh, well, you need to fire this person, otherwise this deal is not gonna go through for you guys." What is it called? Nexstar, I think was their
Right.
name or
Red
something
Star,
like that.
yeah. Yeah.
But it's a scary precedent if someone like that can just step in. And then when you hear things like this guy's connected to that Project 2025 and you
Yeah.
you hear about the conspiracies with all that shit, and it's just like, well, shit,
Yeah.
you know?